With video content becoming the norm nowadays, Instagram is switching over to video-based platform. Even clients are wanting video more for wedding work. Now, as photographers, we need to adapt and learn how to do this eventually. Having your face on video form and on social media and on the internet is a really good way to help clients feel like they know you before they've even met you. In this video, I'm going to show you guys step by step everything you need to do just to get the basics underway and start making video content for your business. Now, while this video is aimed at photographers, I'm assuming that you're going to have a DSLR or a mirrorless camera already. All of the steps that we're going to talk about now, well, most of them anyway, are going to apply if you're just using your iPhone as well, and maybe you just want to start a YouTube channel. So keep watching. I'm going to put timestamps in the description so you can go back and forth, because this is going to be a little bit of a longer video, but here's the topics we're going to cover. Firstly, I'm going to talk about why do we even want to do video in the first place, what are some of the benefits, and what are some of the benefits I've seen personally from doing video content online. The next subject is going to be setting up your camera. Now, I obviously only have Sony cameras, but I'll show you guys those settings, and they're going to be universal across the board. It's just going to be laid out a little bit differently in your menu system. So it's just going to take going in and digging into the system and finding it, but I'll put some screenshots up of the back of cameras from Nikon and Canon. Next, we're going to talk about how to get really high quality audio. A lot of you guys won't know that you already actually have a really good microphone on you at the moment. Otherwise, I'll show you guys some really cheap options and some not so cheap options if you want to go all out. Then we're going to get into filming and lighting and how to actually go about filming the videos and the different types of videos you can do. And after that, we'll go into the editing process. I'm going to be using Final Cut Pro on my MacBook. I'll try to keep this pretty short and concise, everything to the point, but make sure you check the links in the description or the comment section for any updates that I've put in there or any helpful links that will help you guys out. So first, let's talk about why you want to do video. Now, for me personally, I've seen great gains from having my face on camera, especially when I go to meet clients in person. They feel like they already know me, and a lot of people have actually already told me that straight up. I have booked weddings straight from video content that people have found online of myself. For example, I did a little bit of a test. I didn't know how it was going to go down, but I did a video of 10 of the most popular wedding venues in Auckland. It was just kind of 10 decent venues that I'd seen. I'd put a bunch of videos on them. I'll put the link in the description so you can see that as well. I put that online and it came up on Google search when people were looking for Auckland wedding venues. It also came up when the venues themselves shared the video. So that was a really helpful one. I booked at least 5 or 6 weddings directly from people seeing me in that video. And finally, it's just really good to have your face and your voice online to start building a presence for yourself and getting your name out there. People are going to remember you more if they can see you and hear you online. Alright, so let's talk about setting up your camera. In this situation, I'm going to be using my Sony A9II, but like I said before, the settings are going to be pretty universal. Now, if we want to do it right, colors are really important. We are photographers, and if our videos are going to look bad, people may assume that your photos are going to look bad. I don't know, but let's just do it properly if we can. So there's a few options. One is going to be a little bit more tricky in the post-editing process, and one is going to be a little bit easier to deal with. So firstly, the tricky one, and that's using log footage. So if you look at this shot right now of me talking, this is the shot straight out of the camera, and then when I apply my LUT to it, this is how it looks with one click. So it's going to vary depending on cameras, but Canon have really good log profiles and Fuji's are pretty decent as well. I'm using the A7S III to film this and it's really, really amazing too. But log profile is another step and it's a little bit hard to get used to if you've never edited video footage before. There is a workaround that is going to make it a little bit easier if you don't want to go out and use log footage. The next best thing is going into your creative styles or picture profiles, picture looks, or whatever they're called in your camera specifically, but you'll have them looking like standard and vivid and flat, neutral, etc. So with the Canon, for example, you want to go to the one, I think it's called flat, and then turn the contrast all the way down. The less contrast you have, the more dynamic range you're going to pull back, so it's going to look better after you've edited the footage. Like I said, it's really just a good starting step, and it's going to allow the footage to look a little bit more professional. Now, in terms of recording settings like frame rates and frame size, 4K is becoming a bit of a standard these days, especially if you're talking about YouTube content, but it's not really necessary at all for Instagram or Facebook. In fact, I think if you upload a 4K video to Instagram, it's going to downgrade it anyway. So really, Full HD is going to be totally fine in most situations, but if you want to do it in 4K, that's fine also. Now, that was referring to the frame size, so you may have heard the term 1080p. That just means Full HD, so 1920 by 1080 is 1080p. which is full HD. Now in terms of the frame rate, when you hear the term 25p or 30p, 60p, 100p, they're talking about the frame rate. So video is basically a whole bunch of JPEGs put into 1 second at a time, over and over and over again. So 25p is 25 individual frames into 1 second. 120p is 120 little JPEGs put into 1 second. Now when you're talking about 25 and 30p, that's really the difference between NTSC and PAL. Now PAL is the industry standard for New Zealand and most of the rest of the world, to be honest, where I think NTSC is really only for America. It makes really no difference whatsoever, but you need to stick to whatever you're doing for each individual timeline. So if you want to shoot in a 25p timeline, you need to shoot your footage in 25p as well. Now the reason you would shoot 100p or 120p, for example, is to get slow motion, or maybe for a sports game or something like that. You may notice if you're watching Sky TV, a lot of the sports games are filmed in a higher frame rate, so there's less motion blur. But 25p is what you're going to want to use if you're not using slow motion. So again, just to recap on that, 4K is best, 1080p is fine, 1080p is full HD, and in terms of frame rate, 25p is what you're going to use, or 25 frames per second. And if you want to do any slow-mo, you're looking at 100 or 120p. Now in terms of autofocus settings, most cameras are going to have an entirely different autofocus type, but most of them now are pretty good, except for the Nikon DSLRs. Maybe the latest ones are better, but like the D750, I remember when I was shooting on it, and the D810 was pretty bad in terms of video autofocus. Most of the Canon cameras are fine, and pretty much any mirrorless camera you can get these days is going to do the job as well. So just try putting it in autofocus with tracking and see how it goes. Otherwise you can set it in manual, set the distance you want it to record at. That's just going to make sure it's not hunting in the background and distracting the viewers. Now don't underestimate how important good quality audio is, and that's the next step. So having really good quality audio is very, very important. Humans get really distracted when they're listening to really bad quality audio. So for example, if you're watching a video that is really high quality in terms of filming, but the audio track and the voices are really echoey and terrible to listen to, you're going to click off that video much quicker than you would otherwise. If you had a video that wasn't quite up to par in terms of color grading or whatever, just quality, but a really nice voiceover track or just really nice audio in general, it's much, much easier to listen to. Now, if you don't have a microphone and you want to buy one, I have an option here for you. This is a Rode Video Micro. It's just a basic shotgun mic. It comes with a little fluffy on it there, and that just sits on top of your camera and plugs in with a 3.5mm headphone jack. That's only going to set you back about $100, $120 I think, and the quality is really fantastic. The microphone I'm using right now is a Rode NTG-USB mic. It's really fantastic and it sounds amazing. You can go much higher than that as well, but this is fine, and this is going straight into my camera. If you don't want to go out and buy a microphone right now, you just want to have a play, maybe you want to do some videos with voiceover instead, you'll be really surprised how good the quality of the audio is on the microphone of an iPhone. So now I'm recording through the iPhone audio just in the voice app. So this is the audio from my $500 Rode NTG mic, and this is the audio from the iPhone. This is the 12 Pro Max, but most of them have really good audio as well. So don't underestimate it. A lot of cell phones have really high quality mics, and you can just use the voice recorder app and then send it to your computer when you're done to either do a voiceover with some of your photos or something like that, or you can sync the audio later on in DaVinci Resolve or your editing program that you're going to be using. Another option you can do is get some wireless microphones. So these are lapel mics. This is the new Rode Wireless Go 2 system. So this is the one that goes on your camera, and then it comes with two mics if you want to interview two separate people, and these record onto the actual unit as well in case you lose reception with the receiver. So they're a really good option too. They're about $600 or something, so getting up there in price, but these are really fantastic for weddings as well. Now getting into a little bit more depth in terms of recording audio, generally speaking, the rule of thumb with good audio is the closer the mic is to your face or to your mouth, then the better quality the audio is going to get. The further away it is, the more echo you're going to introduce, and it's just not going to be as nice. So this mic, for example, is just right here out of the frame. If I can lower it down, there you go, you can see it there. So that's the Rode mic. It's right here. It's only about, say, I don't know, 30 centimeters away from my face, and it sounds a lot better than if it was way over in the distance. So for example, if I move the mic way over here, and then I'm talking like this, it's not going to be as loud, but I'll up the levels to match it, and you'll hear it's not going to be quite as crisp, it's not going to be quite as nice to listen to. So let's bring that back, and that's what it sounds like again, with the levels lowered, but it's closer to my mouth. So again, we're going a little bit fast, but remember there's timestamps in the description, so you can go back and forth if you want to go over something again. It may pay to watch this video a couple of times just to let it sink in. Now I'm going to quickly talk about lighting, because obviously I'm using lighting, but for these kind of videos, it's probably not going to be necessary, and just a nice window light is going to do the trick. But if you want to get some light, a lot of my older videos, I was just using a $100 Godox ring light. I'll put that in the description as well. And that worked really well. This is what it looked like. At the moment, I'm using two Godox SL60W lights. There's one here, which is my key light, that has a 80 or 90 centimeter octabox on it. And there's one over here just lighting up the side of me with a grill on it to direct the light more. They're quite cheap lights as well. I think they're only 100, maybe 200 bucks each, plus any accessories you want to get with them. But they work really fantastic too. However, this setup is really only efficient if you're doing a lot of videos like this where you're talking a lot. Obviously, I have a YouTube channel and I'm doing this as part of my income. So this setup just stays here like this and I never have to move it or anything like that. So you got to think about what's going to be easier for you to do. And in most cases, I'm picking that's going to be just sitting by a nice window on a nice couch and getting the job done. Now let's talk about filming, and a lot of you guys are going to already know pretty much what to do. It's similar to taking a photo, but you're just taking a whole bunch of them. Think of it that way. So if it looks good on a photo, it's probably going to look good on video as well. The first tip I'm going to give you guys when you're actually talking to the camera is don't ramble on about useless crap. For example, if you're doing a video on what to wear for an engagement session or something, which should be like 1 or 2 minute video, but it's a 5-minute video because you spent 2 or 3 minutes rambling on about the weather and what's going on in the world and what your cat's been eating lately. So get to the point. With video, you have seconds to keep people's attention before they click off. And if people don't watch through your videos, social media platforms are going to hide them. So for example, with YouTube, the algorithm works much better if you have a longer watch time. So if I have a 5-minute video and the average watch time is like 4.5 minutes, then it's going to get suggested a lot in people's feeds and it's going to get a lot more views. And I'm picking Facebook and Instagram works the same as well. Now, as photographers, as I mentioned before, you're probably going to know what looks good in terms of lighting already, but just think side light, backlight, just anything that looks pleasant. You guys know what the drill is. I've done a lot of videos in my van, and all I do is just open one of the doors up and get that side light coming in, as you can see here. Otherwise, it's just sitting by a window and having nice clean white walls or just not really orange lighting. You're better off waiting to do it during the day than filming it in your lounge if you have really orange light bulbs or something like that. It's just going to be a little bit trickier. Now, use a tripod, just set it up somewhere nice, and you can think about using different angles if it's a longer video to keep the attention span going. You can say if you're filming a video like this and then you go and do one in another area of the room, and you can just move the camera around and just get different angles. It's just anything to kind of keep the viewer's attention going. The next really important concept to get your head around is B-roll. So B-roll just refers to secondary footage that you can put over your main speaking camera, as I am now, and this is a really good way to hide all your ups when you've said the wrong word and you've had to cut it. So for example, in this video alone, I've got a lot of jump cuts to hide little gaps and hide ums and ahs and whatever, and having B-roll over the footage on top of it is going to hide a lot of that and make it sound a lot more professional than it probably is. I get a lot of comments saying, oh, you're so good at speaking on camera. I'm not really, I'm just good at putting B-roll in the right place. Now, B-roll can be anything. It can be, say, if we go back to doing a video on what to wear in an engagement shoot, it can be photos. So if you're talking on the camera and then you can have a whole bunch of different examples of different people's clothing from engagement shoots that you've shot, you can put those images over the video like this, and here's a cut of me talking, and that's going to hide a lot of those cuts and display images that you've taken as well. So this is all marketing for you guys to use. Now let's talk about editing. This is the thing that sort of tends to blow people's minds more often than not, but it's a really simple process. Honestly, you don't need to know all the tricks. All you really need to know is how to put a timeline together, cut it, maybe add some audio, add some music. I'll show you guys where to get music as well. So we'll talk about the points first, and then we'll jump into my computer in Final Cut Pro so you guys can see how it works and what has been done, and then I'll show you guys how to export it in different formats for social media. Now in terms of software, I use Final Cut Pro, and honestly I think that's the best one if you have a Mac computer. Obviously Final Cut Pro is Apple software and it's only available on Macs, but it's a lot more efficient and it runs a lot faster. So for example, on my MacBook Pro, which is from like 2019, I can edit this A7S footage, no problems at all, but on my computer, which is a much more powerful Windows computer, it still struggles a little bit. So I use Final Cut Pro, and I suggest that with anybody that has Mac. It costs about $400. It's a one-off payment, and you never have to pay it again, and you can use it on any of your Mac computers for life. There's a bunch of other options as well, but if you're on Windows, two main options you can use are DaVinci Resolve and Premiere Pro from Adobe Suite, which is a subscription-based thing as well. Now, DaVinci Resolve is actually really fantastic, and they have a free version which is going to include everything you're going to need for doing these kind of videos. So that's why I'm going to use it. I used to use Premiere Pro and I just found it real buggy and it would crash all the time. It may be better now. I haven't used it for a couple years. But DaVinci Resolve is a really good free one, and Final Cut Pro is what I suggest if you want to go in all in and get the best. Now before we jump in, let's talk about music quickly, because music is a big one and it's a quick way to get copyright infringements on YouTube and get blocked from social media and things like that. So there's a few ways to get audio. I get my audio from a website called Epidemic Sound. You pay a subscription. It's not the cheapest. I think it's about $30 a month or something. But that gives you access to a whole thousands of tracks and sound effects that you can download and use as much as you want. And if you want to cancel the subscription, everything you use beforehand is still licensed to you for life, so you don't need to worry about, old footage or anything like that. If you just want to start out, the best thing I used to do when I was starting out with YouTube was I would actually go to YouTube itself and then type in something like copyright-free vlog music or something, and you can search for it, find something you want, and then go to another website called YouTube Downloader MP3. Just be very careful that you are downloading something that is copyright-free, and it's very easy to find. Just you're not going to be getting the same kind of quality as audio, and the copyright status could change at any time. So that's a way to do it. And then once you've downloaded the MP3, you can put it into your timeline, which I'll show you guys how to do now. So let's jump into my MacBook and start editing this video. Before we get into editing this and just showing you guys a few little clips, I have actually done an editing tutorial already on YouTube, so I'll put that in the description. It's much more in depth and you can go and see exactly how I go about editing a wedding video as well. So with Final Cut Pro, I'm just going to go up to File, New, and then we're going to start a new project. I'm going to use just standard 1080p. You can select it from here. If you use automatic settings, it's not going to give you many options. So just click Use Custom Settings, 1080p, and all this stuff can stay the same. But this is where you would choose your different frames. So 4K if you wanted to shoot in 4K, or vertical if you wanted to shoot for like Instagram or something like that. So let's stick with 1080p, and then our frame rates, as I was talking about at the beginning of this video, we need to stick that to the same 25p. So now I've got a bunch of clips here and I'm just going to import them. These are just some random ones from a video me and Zan did together on our other YouTube channel. And what else have we got here? I have a couple of clips here of my daughter. So we can bring those in, we'll put them at the start. And we've got some of me talking here for another YouTube video I've done. Now I have a bunch of mistakes in this clip, so it's going to be a really good example for cutting them out and putting B-roll over it to hide it, or doing a zoom cut as well. So here I am just talking about the Android app that came on Sony cameras a while ago, and I've made a mistake around here and had to restart talking again. So we're going to cut that section out where I made a mistake and then put some B-roll over the top of it so you can see how that works. So if we play through to where I made the mistake, so we're going to cut it here after the word effect.
Now basically all it would do.
And then that's where I was on a roll again, so let's go through, zoom in a little bit here. And I'm just looking at these audio meters to see where the pauses are, because that's obviously where I made the mistake. And I'm just using the arrow keys to go back, and then we can cut it there with the A key. I have it programmed to A, the blade key. Otherwise you just go up here and choose blade or B or whatever, and then cut it where you wanted to. So then we can select that clip and press delete, and that's going to automatically bring it back. So if we play it now, you're going to see that mistake is gone, and it's like I just keep talking. The difference is you're going to see the cut on camera, and we want to hide that.
So it's not really long exposure, but it's the same effect. Now basically all it would do is take multiple frames of the exact same photo.
See, now it doesn't look really bad, but you can see the cut, so there was obviously a mistake made. So we've got a clip of me just filming some stuff in the lounge for another video, so we'll just put that over the top. So all I did was drag it from there and on top of this clip, so that's going to cover whatever is underneath it. So now I'm just going to drag this over that cut, and let's give it a few seconds. Delete that portion. My computer's getting a little bit jumpy now because it's not plugged into mains, and I'm screen recording and editing this Sony footage. So let's play it back anyway, and you guys will see how that cut is hidden.
So it's not really long exposure, but it's the same effect. Now basically all it would do is take multiple frames of the exact same photo, and then somehow in camera.
So you can see how that cut is hidden by B-roll. So something you guys are going to do a lot in terms of using B-roll is going to be using your photos, because we are marketing your business at the same time. So I've imported some photos here that we're going to use as B-roll to put over this cut that we've made. So I'm just going to drag that into there. Now what I usually do with photos is I'll go up to the settings here and make the scale about 85%. Now that's just going to shrink the photo down, and then if we go to titles up here in the corner and choose solids, and we can put a white in between those two like so. So we've got our white background. I'm just going to make these a little bit shorter, so again I'll cut those ends off, and now let's play that back so you guys can see the hidden mistake.
So it's not really long exposure, but it's the same effect. Now basically all it would do is take multiple frames of the exact same photo.
And there you have it. The cut is hidden. That's how we use B-roll to do that. And you can do the exact same thing with some extra footage as well. So if I get this little clip of my daughter here, I was just mucking around with the exposure settings on my camera, and we can put that over the top. And this is how you would do it with normal footage.
Without any filters or anything. So it's not really long exposure, but it's the same effect. Now basically all it would do is take multiple frames of the exact same photo, and then...
And there you have it. That's how you hide a cut with B-roll. Now the other thing you can do to kind of hide a cut in B-roll is do a jump cut or a zoom cut. I'm not actually sure what it's called, but that's what I call it. So let's jump back into the timeline, and we'll delete this clip here, and then let's just cut this a little bit short. Now all I'm going to do is punch in a little bit. So I'm just going to go to scale, zoom, and then I'll reposition it a little bit like so it looks kind of like a different camera angle. And then when we play that back, you're going to see it just zooms in a little bit, and it's just not so obvious that it was a mistake. It looks more like an intentional cut to a different image.
Without any filters or anything. So it's not really long exposure, but it's the same effect. Now basically all it would do is take multiple frames of the exact...
So that's how we do it with sort of zoom cuts, I guess we'll call them. So now we've learned how to cut basic footage together and hide it with B-roll. We're going to add a little bit of music. So anything you import is exactly the same. You can just drag it into here, or press Command-I to import anything. I already have a bunch of songs down here, so all we're going to do is drag one underneath the footage, and that's our music. So if I play that, it's not really going to make sense because we're talking over it, but we can adjust the levels to match it.
If you go in the A7R2, I believe, and probably some other cameras as well.
So we've got our music on the timeline here. It's obviously a lot louder than our speaking voice, so we need to A, adjust the volume on the speaking voice, and then B, bring down the volume of the music track here. So first, if you just hover over, see it brings up that dB sign. So if you hover over that, click, and then drag down, it's going to change the volume of the audio track, and you just want to make sure that you can hear your voice over any music. So really the main keys you guys need to know here is just cutting and deleting and moving tracks around. It's really, really basic. Audio is on the bottom, the tracks are on the top. Anything you put on top of another track is going to hide that. And any B-roll, you're probably going to want to mute it as well, so you can do that. But it's just moving footage around, and it's a really, really simple process. So assuming this is our whole video that we want to export, we can just go up to the share button here, choose export file, and then if we go over to settings, we can just check everything here. Now the video codec, I always export as H.264. That's just a kind of industry standard, and that's what most videos are going to be uploaded to with like Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. It's going to be H.264. If you click on that, you have a whole bunch of different options like uncompressed, all sorts of crazy stuff. But H.264 is what you want to stick to, and make sure you've got video and audio on there. And that's pretty much it. We're just going to go next, call it test video, and export it. Now that's going to show up here in the sharing tab. So that's pretty much it, guys. That's how you start a timeline, edit a quick video with jump cuts, and use B-roll footage, and then export the file ready to use on social media. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope that video helped you out. Check in the links as always for the timestamps and any helpful information in there. Thanks for watching, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.